Now it's being recorded. So we are recording this. So if you miss anything, we'll be sending out the link in the next couple of days. You can go back and review it or share it with your colleagues as you see fit. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Meredith Zachritz, who is our Director of Product, to talk you through the exciting new features that we've got in the 25H1 release. Meredith, take it away.
Thank you, Jeanette. Welcome, everyone. Quick tech check because our webinar system is being a little crazy today. You can see my screen and you can hear me, yes?
Yes, yes.
Great. Good. Glad to hear it. All right, well, let's get going. So what we have here for you will generally available tomorrow, and a bunch of you will be upgrading over the weekend, are some new features in our 13.4 release. That's our first half of 2025 release of Journyx JX. And so the features that we'll be taking a look at today include geolocation tracking. This is the first piece of a 2 to 3 part epic around tracking geolocation, particularly as a mobile first kind of example, although we'll look at it today in the browser. And then eventually geofencing by user or groups of users and geolocation related to specific projects and jobs. So we'll be releasing those various features over a series of releases, but today I'll show you the geolocation tracking that's available in the release that will be public tomorrow. Then we'll also take a look at the updated timekeeping interface, and so any of you who've watched the management screens over time get a facelift to the more modern framework in Journyx JX. Our timekeeping interface was one of the more complicated interfaces. It's also referred to as time on behalf of others or crew entry. And so it's stayed on the older interface for a little while because it was so very complicated. And so we finally got that updated, in particular to support supervisory management of job entries. And so in 13.3, we introduced job start-stop time tracking. And so it's a particular screen, particular types of projects that are designated as jobs where we can capture start and stop times for work against those jobs. And what we've added here in timekeeping is the ability for supervisors to manage let's say start times that were incorrect. They forgot to punch in, or last job they forgot to punch out, and so the system automatically clocks them out at the end of the day, but that's not when they actually clocked out of that job. And so this gives supervisors the ability to manage those incorrect or missed start-stop times. Then we'll have a little bit of math, but I'll give you a visual. I know you were probably thinking there would be no math, but we'll talk a little bit about accrual event timing and how it was previously shown in reports and an improvement that we've added to the base accrual reporting in the JX system. And then finally, I'll show you some of the new features available in our cloud-to-cloud integration framework, specifically for Dynamics 365 F&O. So let's go ahead and jump over to our browsers here, and we'll take a look at geolocation first. So let's go ahead and take a look at how you enable geolocation tracking. It's definitely optional, and you can assign it to specific groups of users by assigning them to a time entry screen that has geolocation tracking turned on. So we'll take a look at that really quickly. You can see that I've created a job entry screen with location tracking, but you can add it to any of your time entry screens. And so there are 3 new settings: one to turn location tracking on, and then options to require tracking either in the browser or in mobile. Now today, because we're showing configuration and how this works, we're going to take a look at it in the browser. But we will be publishing new mobile apps that will also allow users to track their location via their mobile devices. And obviously that makes a lot more sense because we're not typically moving our computers around and tracking from different locations on the web, but mobile apps definitely are used in the field when employees are tracking their time, perhaps traveling from location to location to do their work. But there are options here to do it in browser or mobile, and it can be optional or it can be required. And those are your choices. And then, of course, you can have some groups of employees who track it and some who don't, some who are required and some who are not. So let's take a look at what that looks like for the end users. We'll start with somebody who hasn't turned it on themselves. They're getting the notification that they're required to track location. Okay, and so what you see here is that there's a notification to track your location. But with browsers and mobile devices, the browsers and mobile devices are going to want you to, the end user to assert that, yes, they can track their location. If you only were tracking location and didn't have it required, this message would be in blue and would say that you can track your location if you'd like by checking this box. Now, I will say that if you are going to make this required for your end users, whether in browser or mobile, and they don't turn this on, they don't say, yes, track my location, then they won't be allowed to save any time because they will receive a message that says your administrator, requires you to track your location in order to save your time. So that's essentially how this works, but it could also be an optional setting. There is also a process that I didn't necessarily want to take a ton of time doing today, although we will definitely do this in a follow-up mobile session, where if I didn't have location tracking enabled in my browser, in Chrome in this instance, it would tell me your browser doesn't have location tracking turned on, and it would point me to this icon right here up in the navigation bar and explain essentially how to go turn location tracking on for Chrome so that your location tracking works. So there's a lot of tutorials and help with the end users, but once they've agreed that they're tracking location and they have it all set up, from there on out, when they log time, it will track their location. So let's go to somebody who already has a few entries. And the location data won't be super interesting from the browser, especially if you're on a VPN, because it's always going to be in the same location. But we'll take a look at kind of what it looks like. Here's somebody that does have a job entry screen. This doesn't have to be attached to a job entry screen. You could do straight hours. You could do in-out times and allocate your time to projects, and we could still track location. But again, the most common use case that we see is generally on a mobile device in the field. And again, it's based on someone who travels from location to location to do their work. And so when location tracking is on, we can look at the location information via this paperclip. So this paperclip appears, that location was tracked for these entries. And so we can look at these locations and also click through to a map to see where it is. Likewise, in reports, we can see similar information about location and also click through to the map. So that is location tracking in a nutshell, as it is in 13.4. And what we anticipate following on with in October is the ability to then set up geographical areas or fences where that can be assigned to a user or groups of users with a shared characteristic. And it will essentially give you the option to block any time tracking when said user or group of users is outside of that geographic fence. And that we will be introducing in October. So that covers our geolocation for 13.4. So now I'm going to go ahead and move on to timekeeping and some of this job entry management in timekeeping. So again, this is under entry for others and user crew sheets. But if you've been using Journyx for a while, you know the role that gives you access is timekeeper, and timekeeping has been terminology we've used for a long time. I will show you the old screen. It's not lovely. But you can kind of see the search filters are, you know, something that you collapse. The sheet date isn't something that you can change without opening the search filters and hitting search. There are all kinds of things about the screen that are less than optimal. So on the new timekeeping screen, you can see that we've got the modern search filters that you've seen on other screens, that you can, if I apply some of these filters, so let's say I can do a sheet date here if I want to apply it, it will remember those filters if I leave the screen and return. So again, I've got my sheet date filter right there. I've also got a quick date filter, which is really nice. So if I just want to change the date, which is very common here, I was like, okay, I've managed all the sheets I need to manage for the week of the 7th. Now I want to jump to the 14th. Again, can do that quickly here with this quick date. And then I can return to default filters by removing all my filters here. So kind of all the nice new stuff that you've gotten on some of your other management screens now available for timekeeping. Another new feature that, again, comes from your other management screens is I can decide what I want to show here in the search results. And I did. So I took some things off. I added pay group, for example, is something that might be relevant for what I'm trying to do here as I manage timekeeping. But I could add other, you know, I added email address and I could remove that. And if I'm also an expense keeper, I could add back expense sheet information. And then I'd reorder it if I wanted to reorder. So again, this gives you maximum flexibility before, you know, this is what you got, depending upon what you chose here. But you couldn't change or add fields to those settings. So now you do have that option here in the gear icon. And, you know, different timekeepers, expense keepers can, you know, have different fields shown here depending upon what it is that they need to see. Also on the old screen, there was an action menu here, so timekeeping actions, and that was where you could either select a group of sheets to edit or select a group of sheets to submit. And the way that works now is through the use of icons. So we have edit for time, submit for time, edit for expense, submit for expense. You don't have to see expense or custom if you don't use expense or custom, so it's just kind of up to you what to show here. And if you don't have a role that allows you to track expenses or custom entries for your the folks that you have here, then you'll only see the time icons that relate to yours. And then of course you can select some sheets to edit, and this takes you to your crew entry. This person has their payroll ribbon, and you can enter time for all of them one time. So crew entry is still supported. You can enter a couple. And so we have our crew entry here. And likewise, I can then go to submit these sheets, and you'll see that now we have a nice view of the sheets that I'm trying to submit and what type they are. So a summary, if I were to submit these sheets and one of them was in a state, let's say it's missing an out time for allocation screens where it wouldn't submit successfully, or it triggers a DBT rule, then I'll get that message that 2 of these succeeded and 1 of them did not. In this particular instance, you'll note it will say the period of the sheet if they all match, but in this case, I'll pick some mismatched users, which we typically don't do when we're doing our crew entry and timekeeping. But you've got all this information here that previously was just kind of handled in messages above after the fact. So you've got a little bit of extra information essentially as you're doing this if you accidentally select something that you didn't really mean to select. And then like the old screen, you still have information, color and hover information that tells you what state the sheets are in. So I can see that I've got a rejected sheet here. I could go ahead and, looks like these two have the, submit these two timesheets. Oh, and as we see, DVT. So I had some things I was supposed to do on those sheets, and it wouldn't let me submit them. But I can get all that information here nice and easy, much more cleanly on this new timekeeping screen. Now, you may wonder, well, why did we prioritize timekeeping for an update in this go-round? And the reason that we chose to focus in this area was in part because of the job entry screens, the job start stop that I showed you just a moment ago. And we were not able on the old screen, so we've got Andrew here who has a timesheet that is job start stop, but when I open his timesheet, you'll see the old kind of grid, the most popular grid spreadsheet layout and format, but there's no option to manipulate his start and end times for his jobs, but that's how Andrew tracks his time. So on the new timekeeping screen, when I open his screen, I can now see his job start stop. Let's see if I, and so I can manipulate his times from here. If I pick the wrong week or the wrong user, we'll figure that out. All right, well, it's doing something funny to me. Let's see if I can hard refresh. Well, you know, sometimes during demos, things do peculiar things, but we'll go ahead and track some jobs for Andrew right here. And so when we add that job now, yeah, I did something weird to my setup as I was showing you the screen. There would be an option here to edit the entry, but I did something funny in the configuration and messed up my my setup. Apologies. Oh, we'll just have to. Oh. My guess is it's caching from this screen here that's causing me the trouble. Let's try one more thing. There we go. Yeah, they're stomping on one another. Sorry about that. All right, so we can see his job start stops that he's entered. And so, for example, that stop time here, let's pretend that this says 11:59 because he forgot to punch out at the end of his job 2, at the end of Monday. And so what I could do then is select this time here and change the end time to be when he actually finished work that day. I could also insert punches if they've got one essentially still running by adding start and stop time. So let's just say he completely forgot to start or stop his job on that day and he had worked another set of hours. I could add a start stop time right here. So full management here of your job start stop entry, folks, so that they can either correct times or insert times that were missed by the individuals. Because while they can manage their times on the day that they're entering their jobs in mobile. So you've essentially got a job, you've got a start and a stop button. Those start and stop buttons are available for today. But if you come in tomorrow and realized you messed up something the day before, then you're not able to start and stop things for the day before. And so that's what the supervisory capability and timekeeping allows people to do, is fix people's times if they're not able to fix them themselves. So that is timekeeping for job entry. I apologize for the technical glitch there. All right, so I'm going to go just a little bit out of order and show you the F&O Cloud Link options, and then we'll go back to the math problem for accrual math. But essentially, we introduced a new cloud integration framework with 13.3, the previous release, in October. And now, as of tomorrow, we will have a version 2 of the integration for Dynamics 365 F&O. And what that includes, for those of you who are familiar with the ERP and other types of integrations, is essentially there are settings that determine how we map your data and different how it gets set up for project dependencies and groups, etc. And then we then of course make that happen with our business sync. But then you track all of your time or expenses or other equipment information in our system, and then you approve it, and that goes back to your ERP and financials. And so with version 2 of our F&O integration, we have added the time sync back to F&O. It's kind of an interesting process because there's project time in F&O, and then there's leave time in F&O, and in the future there may be work order, service order time in F&O. So we'll keep expanding this integration as we go, as well as port some of our existing account links, which are a slightly different technology for our integrations, to the cloud framework. So for example, we have an account link for NetSuite, and we will be porting NetSuite to the cloud framework. And this will allow you and our customer support team to be able to review your settings and potentially debug issues as you run across them. Essentially, there are global settings for the cloud integration that you see here related to the way your data will be treated in Journyx. And then you'll have a particular third-party flavor that you'll see here, where there are settings specific to your ERP. And of course, connection credentials, which would also be specific to how your ERP talks to Journyx. But then one of the things that you'll see with, say, the time sync is it's a simple process that you run, and you can run it on demand, or you can create schedules. And this looks more like, say, some of your import tools or your scheduled reports, like other things that you've seen on the Journyx server, follows basically the same process. And so you can set up recurring runs of data back and forth between your cloud integrated third-party system. All right, so now let's go ahead and take a look at the math. So the base level accruals and accrual reporting, if you look at the balance, say today or tomorrow, your current balance, everything will have caught up, all the events will have happened regardless of what order you see them in, and your current balance will be correct. However, if you wanted to go back and say, look at your balance at the end of last month, that balance might not match up with other tools that you might have. You might have, say, custom reporting or a custom, leave export, that kind of thing. And the totals for the balances might not match up because the way events were being ordered in accrual reporting was not very granular. And so sometimes they weren't in a particularly logical order, they would be in the order of the way they happened, but the way they happened might not be the order that you wanted to see them in. And so this scenario here kind of spells it out. It's somebody is out on the last day of the month, they're sick. They always get a grant of 4 hours of accrued sick leave on the first day of the month. So when they return on September 1st and enter their sick leave of 8 hours for August 31st, that sick leave is coming in to the old reporting logic after the September 1st accrued leave of 4 hours. Obviously, because the sick leave happened on August 31st, that doesn't really make sense, but the record date wasn't captured in the proper place to allow that sorting to occur. So what we've done is we've added that information to the table that the report relies on. And so now the accrual report, if you go to look at what that person's sick leave balance was on August 31st, it will correctly reflect the 40 minus 8 and not the 40 plus 4 minus 8. So that was what was happening. We will adjust your data for last year when you upgrade to 13.4 because obviously we weren't tracking things this way in your old data. But anything earlier than 2024 will still sort in the old way because it doesn't have that record date to use to sort those accrual events logically. So this is an improvement in kind of granularity in the accrual reporting so that you can do better point in time balance reporting than you could in the old system. All right. So that is what I have to show you today. It is now time to take your questions.
Thanks, Meredith. Appreciate that. And that math problem was too much for me to wrap my brain around. Yeah. So first question, do we have to request an upgrade to get these new features?
I'll just say that it depends, and you should check with your account manager. Some of you may have already received a notification that we'll be doing upgrades this weekend. If you're already on 13.3.1, then you are likely eligible to go to 13.4 this weekend. If you have not received a notification for upgrade, then you can contact me, you can contact your account manager, whoever you'd like, but go ahead and let us know that you would like to be upgraded and we can work with you. If you have any custom tools that need adjustment or that sort of thing, we'll work with you to get those tested, but otherwise you can definitely upgrade on demand.
Great, thanks so much. We currently just enter hours. Can this setting be changed to start-stop times now?
Yes, provided that you're on 13.3 or 13.3.1, you can do that now. And then as of 13.4, you will be able to do it your timekeepers will be able to manage it as well. So yes, we can definitely, you can contact support or your account manager and they can walk you through the steps to do that. It's fairly easy.
And if you don't know who your account manager is, you can email sales@journyx.com and that'll get to the right person. So we'll make sure that all of that is taken care of for you. I don't see any additional questions now. Are there any final things that you want to leave the audience with, Meredith?
Just a reminder that 2 things that we are continuing to work on, and actually 3 things. 3 things. Number 1, like I said, that this is geolocation tracking today, and that we will add fencing in October. Number 2, that we will have mobile releases that make use of the geolocation information in May and June, and that they will be published in live. And we'll also follow on with some training there. And then third, with the maintenance release for 13.4, 13.4.1, we will also have full support for timesheet information in the RESTful API. And we'll be sure to get that notice out to you when we follow on with 13.4.1 this summer.
Great. Great. Thank you so much for that. We are recording this, and so we'll be sending out a link to the recording and to some additional resources with that email. So check out that email. We also announce features like this, and we'll be announcing when we've got the mobile apps ready, that kind of thing, in our newsletter. If for some reason you are not getting that newsletter, feel free to send an email to me, jgrand, Grand, @journyx.com, and I'll make sure that you're on that list. Thanks so much for attending today. You'll have a great afternoon, and let us know if you have any questions as we go. We appreciate your attendance.